I think my dad probably always wanted me to be a frame builder, really, because I was not good enough to play for Stoke City Football Club. One day we went to Harry Quinn's Cycles, and we went upstairs, and I must have only been around about 10 or 12, and we went up these stairs, and there was like a whole great frame building little workshop upstairs, and looking out the window and all these people getting past, and nobody knew what skills were going on upstairs, and I was just a bit drawn to it for some reason, so I thought I'll do that when I'm older, and I did. Funny enough, everyone thinks my dad's a frame builder. He's not, he's never really built a frame. And it was just a case my dad loved his bike, so he was always glued to what the Italians do. And the Italians were the best frame builders probably at the time, or the British, just one or two brilliant British brands. But the Italians had the key to detail, and my dad was really into that, so my dad wanted to bring all that detail to his frames. My dad was like shape and balance and a custom, a racer really, sat on the bike perfectly. Given from the fact that my dad rode 3 Tour of Britons in the wrong size bike, probably 1.5 inches over or even 2 inches too big, and seeing that many people come in sat in the wrong position, it was, if we are going to make bikes, fit is the number one key. The fit is the key in having a balanced bike which handles right, my dad always said if your hands and your bum and your feet are in the right place, everything else will take care of itself. It's just if you want it then. If you want to win things, you're going to have to just try harder than everybody else and you'll win. That was a simple philosophy, and it's always worked. It still rings true today,
When Brian, as I understand it, first started doing the fits, he would just have customers practically just leaning up against the wall, and he would just look at them, and he's just got a good eye for seeing the rider is sitting right. But obviously we progressed a little bit, obviously having people dynamically moving on the bicycle makes a big difference to just having like a static sort of, fitting on a bike, essentially. Rourke's have got quite a heritage of building bikes, and as a youngster, who's born and bred in Stoke-on-Trent, I've always kind of, looked at the Rourke brand and things over the years. As a young mountain biker, actually, obviously the Rourke stuff was more road orientated, but I was always well aware that they made custom mountain bikes back in the day also. So yeah, it's it's nice to be part of it essentially, and Jace knows his stuff, and I've certainly learned a lot from both Brian and Jason over the years as well.
A lot of people always say to me, why do you favour Reynolds? It's not just because it's British, so we've got to emphasise that. Sometimes we get lost in the British thing. It should only be British if it's the best. The lucky thing of what we've got is we've got Reynolds who are probably the best, and then we've got some brilliant frame builders, all around the country. And that's another thing why I was into frame building, really. It was, we'd go to, my dad would drag me to a bike race in, say, Sheffield or something, and everybody would be riding like Woodrups or whatever it is, or you'd go to different places and you'd see the bike frame builder from that area, and I thought it was even more than British. It was more local. It was localised as well, which I thought was fantastic. We built one for a 953 for Alan Barker recently, a track bike, and I wasn't giving it much thought, but I was watching the cycling on Sky, and Alan had come past on a 953, and it looked amazing because it was a stainless bike, British tubing, made by me, which made me obviously very proud, in a sea of carbon. So it was fantastic to think, well, we have actually shown that anyone can do it, really. I can remember when the rep came in with the Muc-Off and the very ever first batch of Muc-Off, and we were like, what's Muc-Off like? You know what I mean? I'm thinking, oh, that sounds like something else. You know what I mean? And to look what they've grown into now, and you see it on the flipping sides of cars, motorbikes and all sorts, which is phenomenal, really. But it just shows you humble beginnings and work hard, and so we like working with people. Yeah, it's and particularly now there's so much good stuff with Hope and Reynolds and loads of British brands. I think the handover is probably the most important thing. You can see that they've got a vision on the bike, and I think you can never get away from that. Particularly these days, in the past, it's always been for a racer, a proper genuine racing enthusiast. So they see it as more of a tool. Like my dad would always see a bike as a tool rather than a bike. When I was a kid, probably the first time I realised, blimey, we do something unique. Was one of my friends at school went south of France, and he couldn't wait to come back off holiday, and we could only been about 13 or 14, and he said you couldn't believe it, but we were stuck in a traffic jam, and I looked out the window and a bloke came past on a Rourke bike, and it was he couldn't believe that the possibility that we sold the bike to France. Amazing. We build bikes the way we do. One, it is tradition, but again, a bit like British can only be British if it's best, tradition can only be traditional if it still works today. A lot of the things we do haven't changed much because it's still the best way. If there was a better way, we'd be doing it a better way. Steel's still the best, really, the best material for a bike frame, in my opinion. You know, don't get me wrong, carbon. You know, I can understand why carbon teams ride carbon bikes. For economic reasons, and obviously, you know, teams are going to be sponsored, which does make it hard these days for us to. In the old days, we would make, say, Peugeot's team bikes, and they would put Peugeot on, but everybody would identify, they would spot they were our frames, which was really good. So even though it didn't say Rourke on, people knew it was one of our frames. Building for characters is the most important. I mean, we built a bike for Muhammad Ali, unbelievably. Nobody believes it when I say it, but we did. Every now and again, strange little things come along like that. You know, it does introduce us, cycle frame building does introduce us to some funny characters, like, you know, TP, Tony Pulis, for example. You know, we got friends with him because we built him a bike, you know, and he's turned out he's a friend for life, you know, and that happens, you know, it's like Guy, you know, we build. We're lucky because our customer base is so loyal that they've always keep coming back. You know, we built bikes for Red Jarvis, and they come in the shop every Saturday and talk about character and just an aura about. And you meet people like that every now and again, and it makes everything worthwhile. Brilliant.